Hey everybody, Gary Fong here, and I'm doing this video to kind of clear up some confusion about how anti-EMF effects work with Shungite. A lot of people have been asking about perimeter protection, like how much room around a Shungite rock can you be protected by. For example, we got this message from one of our clients. And she said, "Hi, Gary. I saw your channel with the phone line, and as you brought the phone in front of the meter, it went to 0, which is great. That only shows me it blocks only that area. It doesn't neutralize D area. Only that small area is being blocked." That's her belief from what she's learned. But if you have the phone near the meter, there is no changes. It is not a 360-degree protection. Okay, so there is that kind of a thing. So she asked, "Please do a test with the big one. I need EMF as soon as possible. I've spent thousands on clothes, poor thing, and scalar waves. I'm electromagnetic sensitive and have tinnitus." Well, so am I, and I'm very electro hypersensitive, which is why I'm able to tell right away if something works or doesn't work, because it's quite instant. Now, I'm wearing Shungite all the time, so I don't feel any of these effects. But if I were to take it off, then instantly I would have the migraine, the ringing in the ears, the pressure behind the eyes. I know these symptoms so well. The very, very tight breathing, the feeling of anxiety for no reason whatsoever. The tight breathing way up high in the chest, the head fog, and all of these things. So that's kind of makes me the canary in the coal mine. So I think EHS sensitive people are kind of have a little bit of an advantage because they go, "Oh wow, that really doesn't feel good," and therefore they move away from it. The people who are not EHS sensitive will basically just stand in the damaging energy and not really know that they're being damaged. I mean, there's with the help of this awesome new medical research tool called Consensus, I've been able to do up-to-the-date research articles on 200 million academic articles that are published, peer-reviewed, but academic. That means that they're not like self-purporting studies to kind of, benefit their own claims. And so when I go on to Consensus, I'm seeing all of these new studies that have come out, like some as recent as 2022, and this will be the main thrust of a lot of my upcoming videos, is to talk about the scientific research that's come out recently that you now have access to through Consensus ChatGPT. See, in the old days, someone could say, "No, that's not proven, and here is a paper to prove it." But that paper might have been, 1987, and it's been superseded by something new. And a lot of these papers that I saw about, radiation or cell phone radiation damages were before there was even 3G or 4G. A lot of the regulatory standards, like I think it's called Code 5 in Canada or something like that. FDC has their own different rules for what is acceptable, but they're quite old. And the newest information, how would you find it? Like, say for example, someone published a really great type of paper on cell phone radiation in 2022, but you wouldn't be able to find it on Google. You wouldn't be able to find it unless you're a research scientist and went into the archives. I mean, in the old days, it was crazy. People who tried to find research would go into a library and use the index cards with a Dewey Decimal System and try to find out what book, and then they'd have to read the entire book. I mean, the cool thing about Consensus is that you can just punch in a topic and it'll pull it up. So that is amazing for me, because I don't like to make claims about what Shungite does or what certain things do. I'd rather just show you the medical evidence, and now I'm armored up to prove it. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something that's really kind of a myth that's been created by people who just want to sell you stuff, right? Like, for example, this is a Shungite pyramid, and it tested positive. It was Shungite. Sent me back about $300. I bought it from a local store, and the shopkeeper who sold it to me said, "Just put this on top of your router, and it will protect a 1,200 square foot area of your house." And I thought, 1,200 square foot? Wow, that's really weird. Okay, so I stuck it on. Didn't feel a thing. Now I would know. I took all my stuff off. I stuck it on. Didn't feel a thing. There was still the anxiety, that sickening feeling in the gut, the nervousness, and the impending migraine that I felt from pressure behind my eyes from the radiation heat. Those of you who are kind of wondering, "Hey, why are my eyes blurry sometimes? I'm having a hard time." It's because the radiation from the non-ionizing radiation from these sources actually heat up tissues, and that's been obviously proven to do so. This is how they regulate how much cellular radiation you can have. it actually heats up the eyeball. And in the eyeball being bigger, you actually get more of a myopic effect, right? Because the retina is supposed to basically pinpoint, the lens is supposed to pinpoint the convergence spot, what they call the focus point, at the back of your retina. But when your eyeball's big, then it goes in front of it, and therefore you become nearsighted. So there's all these things that happen in the presence of radiation that you don't really kind of know about until you tie them together, and that's what I've been able to do. So, but one thing that I do know is that there's no such thing as radius protection. I wanted to put this video out there for many people who inquire, like, okay, well, if I buy this rock, how much protection do I have? And I want to say this in a very, very kind of friend-to-friend, father-to-son kind of thing. If you believe that you can stick this on your router, or if you believe that you can stick something on a device and then just stick it up to your head and be protected, that's probably not the wisest thing at all to do. And it actually puts you more in danger, because if you walk around with a multimeter, an EMF multimeter, you just walk around your house. You walk by that smart door lock, woo, it goes up. Not just the microwave, not just the router, but a Sonos speaker or a Roomba vacuum. In fact, on my YouTube, I have a whole bunch of different tests that I've done with the multimeters to show how much EMF is coming off of these devices. Especially just an open USB cord that's plugged into the wall is insane for how much flux it generates. So to give you that false kind of thing that you can put something somewhere and be protected is hazardous. And one thing that so I want to show you this thing about the perimeter protection. Please understand that the effectiveness of Shungite comes from when it is touching your skin. This is when it gets to your conducting points, close to your conducting points, like your chakras, or they're called dantians. I think in Chinese medicine they're called dantians. Those are the lowest resistance points, highest conductivity, lowest points. I like to call them USB plugs for your body. So that would be the crown chakra, throat chakra, solar plexus over the heart is a very, very low conducting because it receives energy in these areas. And this is where all of the synthetic spin from synthetic influences like radiation, like glyphosate, like chemical exposure, those things basically wear down your body by introducing alien influences. These, I call them alien because they don't belong in your body. They didn't belong on Earth. They're only there because man invented it. Synthesis. Anything that's synthetic kills anything in natural systems. And you know this. That's why they talk about pollution. That's why they talk about, just anything that has had contact with man kills everything about it. Stop and think about it. Plastics, EMF, fertilizers, preservatives, all those things are very deleterious to man because when they enter the body doesn't know what it is. It's never seen anything like that in, all these millions of years of evolution. It doesn't even recognize them. So it freaks out. It causes cytokine storms. It causes autoimmune disorders because it doesn't know what to do with this weird stuff. The thing about Shungite is it's packed in natural powerhouse of what they call the fullerene allotrope of carbon molecules into a buckyball. And in that buckyball, it's a powerhouse of positive energy spin, a complete natural spin of the universe. So two things that I do is, one, I wear Shungite. Two, I use an earthing strap to ground my negative ions when I sleep at night, and it's just absolutely been brilliant. And, the thing about Shungite is I'll never take it off, because you won't find me take this stuff off. If I do, I don't even want to know about it. It's just kind of weird. It's like being a scuba diver and saying, I'm going to take off all my stuff because I think I can, whatever. Foolish things that people do. I won't even go there because I just won't take it off. But that is how it works. It has to be touching the skin. So when that lady says, the video shows that it only blocked that area, doesn't neutralize an area around it. We've got that a lot when I do my tests with the multimeter. Okay, so in this test condition, I have the Android on, and it's registering 175 volts per meter in EF, which is very, very high. 10 is considered the limit of healthy exposure. Now watch, when I bring the Shungite in, it drops. It drops to 6.3. And then when I pull it out, it goes back up to 155. So people have said, well, that's just because you're blocking the meter. And a lot of people don't look at all my videos, so they look at some that were just different test conditions. And so I've had to, show them, no, it's not blocking the meter. Here's a really good example. In this example here, I have a live USB cord, and it was popping at, what are we looking at? 274. That's extremely high. So don't go near the cord if it's plugged into the wall. Okay, this is volts per meter. This will cause glioma. This will cause oxidative stress. This will cause a lot of things. So you don't want to do that. But so you see here, when I bring the Shungite in, and this is the Shungite cell plate that's not on, it's not in between the two. I just bring it in within the presence of it. You'll see that it drops to 1, 6, 4.4, 5.3, and then it 5.3, and then it completely attenuates. Now there's nothing here blocking that cord. There's nothing between that and the sensor. And people go, well, then how does that work? That works because what happens on the Shungite, it creates what's called an eddy current. And the eddy current is the receiver of the synthetic EMF energy. And it is kind of a reconfiguration of the electrons in order to pull the flux away from that. Now that's part of the reason that it is such a highly conductive material. And when I test Shungite, you'll see that I'm using a multimeter and I hit it with 2 prongs to test the resistance. And all of these tests can be found on my website. I have so many different tests that you can basically see how that works with regards to what Shungite does with EMF. And then when you go to my website and look at the published studies, you'll see that there's article after article that shows that Shungite is effective in alleviating EMF stress, and it basically is the only one. I've tried looking at other things and nothing comes up like Shungite. So rest assured that that is the idea. So here I wanted to show you the inverse square law, and the inverse square law means that with regards to perimeter protection, you say this is here and it'll cover 1,200 square feet. Well, I'm here to tell you at 1,200, at the limits of 1,200 square feet, you're not going to get much flux. And here's proof of that. So I'm at my microwave right now, and you'll see that I've got 174.3. I'm actually measuring RF, which is more of the standard for measurement for microwave radiation. Non-ionizing microwave radiation, which is the same radiation as that comes from your phone. In fact, microwaves actually work at a 2.4, 2.5, which is around the same as you would have with your non-5G phone. Your 5G phone is actually much, much more damaging. But let's go here. And so it says it peaks at 183, but I'm right up next to the hot microwave as it's spewing out its flux. So as I walk away, and this is just like, now I'm down to 117, maybe a foot away here. Now I'm down to 71.37 at maybe a foot and a half away. Then it goes down to 23. Then it goes down to 1480, 962, 973, 835. And now we're in the safe zone of 1.91 milliwatts per square meter. Now this is something that kind of might prove to you that I'm not trying to sell you something. My thing is distance is your friend. So if you don't want to buy this stuff, you'll then just say, you know what, I'm going to stay as far away as I can from my router, from my phone, from all sources, and then I'll be relatively flux free. I won't be absorbing a lot of the flux. Here's the problem. The problem is in the studies they found that the small amount of long-term exposure to non-ionizing radiation is what causes the body so much damage by oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress is something that happens when something enters your body, and those free radicals, you'll hear this, but nobody knows, so I'm here to explain it to you. Those free radicals are basically molecules that go around and they are hungry for an electron. They're positively charged ions. In fact, your body is positively charged just by standing over Earth. When walking around, we're getting subjected to so much radiation that if you touch a grounding pole or another person, it's just like, rubbing your feet on static carpet and you touch and there's a zap. That static electricity is positive charge going from me to you to the ground because a person's standing on the ground. It won't work if the person's standing on a rubber mat. So what's really cool is I discovered earthing, which I use a strap around my ankle, which is plugged into the ground wire. at my house and at night. It's amazing. I was getting into glucose sensitivity where I was almost pre-diabetic, and I don't even really like sweets that much, so I couldn't understand that at all. But what wound up happening was that was happening because I was bombarded and EHS sensitive. My body has a lot of what's called porphyrins, and porphyrins are a luminescent molecule that when it's hit by photons, it actually continues vibrating. For example, there's a porphyrin that's required to join iron and oxygen together to form heme. When you have that thing vibrating like that, then you wind up not able to produce enough heme. It also works against myoglobin. So myoglobin consists of magnesium, porphyrin, and oxygen. But when this thing gets vibrated by all of the bombardment of synthetic radiation, it has a hard time binding and creating myoglobin. And myoglobin is what transports oxygens to your muscles. So any of you, have you noticed you've had a lot of muscle stiffness ever since 2020? Weight gain is another one of those, because what happens is the porphyrin is very, very active in the take-up of energy into ATP into the cell. And the way that works, I think it's the cytokine 2 or something like that. It's one of the coenzymes that's used to take oxygen and bring it into the molecule to create the glucose. The problem is when that porphyrin is buzzing like that, the oxygen cannot bind to that, and therefore it stops the ability for the mitochondria to actually work at its full capacity. And that's why people are getting weight gain. And to alleviate those, I've used Shungite. I mean, I haven't gained weight. And what's really interesting is I look at pictures of myself before and now, and I looked quite a bit older. I mean, I'm 63 now. Oh, I'm turning 64 really quick, right? And I feel incredible. The entire time during the lockdown, I never caught COVID. I never got sick, didn't get the injections, anything like that. I just wore my Shungite. So on one hand, I say, with Shungite, set it, forget it. If you're EHS and you put it on, you'll feel it right away. Even just like grabbing something, you'll just go, whew, what is this relief? It's the discharge. It's a discharge of synthetic spin. So I wanted to put that out there, that it is extremely important with Shungite that it touches your skin. Because if you were to say that if I'm away from the router, what's to say that you didn't walk into another source, like the neighbor's Wi-Fi? And all you need to do is just look for available Wi-Fi networks, and you'll see there's a zillion of them. You're getting constantly bombarded. Here's a really mind-blowing fact. Right now, what's streaming on Hulu is going right through you to the receiver. That's going through your body, as well as when I pick up a phone to call Australia, that is going to go to Australia. There's nothing that I can do to block the television receiver with my body to stop that signal from going from Hulu to my television. So at this moment right now, my body is intercepting phone calls from my neighbor to his neighbor, or someone in Japan calling someone in Sri Lanka. Every single signal that is, the only reason why we pick them up is because it's been directed to land here. But all of these radio signals are going along diffuse everywhere, wherever you go. Now, I think one thing that's really kind of interesting and really upsets me is this company called Aries Tech. They keep changing their justification for charging you $350 for either a decal or a business card that they say wards off EMF damage. It doesn't block it. So they used to say that it did block it until it was found that they didn't block it. And then they went and said that it harmonizes it. And then I saw them say that it uses scalar waves, which, if you know anything about quantum physics, there's not really a thing called scalar waves. It'd be nice if we could do that, and then we could transport information faster than the speed of light. But there are scalar fields that exist, which is in the Higgs field, and this is something that's analogous to what Wilhelm Reich called the orgon. It's also analogous to, more to what I understand, the spiritual world, calling the Higgs field the Akashic, and that is the all-surrounding ether that basically is a void of matter, but has the ability to propagate energy from one place to another. Now, my hypothesis, and I'll come up with this sooner than later, is that the Higgs field is actually a very aware consciousness, as the Akashic is, which is why those of us who are able to meditate and access the Akashic records can download insane amounts of information in a split second, and you can too. And that's all part of probably another video I'm going to do that would relate the Akashic to the what is called the Orgone cloud ether, whatever, and the Higgs field, which is known in particle physics. I can't wait to do that one. I'm really close to kind of getting that all together for you. But the thing that I found about Aries Tech that is just so heartbreaking is people like this lady who says, I've spent thousands of dollars on scalar wave technology. Aries Tech is the only people I know that made the scalar waves. And then they also made this thing where they said that they use multiple microprocessors. And then they said it's a microprocessor, but it's a passive microprocessor.
At the core of it is a microprocessor. It's a passive microprocessor. What that means is there's no power source to it.
And all you need to do is go to any, like ChatGPT is something that I really rely on because it's better than Google. It actually kind of interprets what Google has out there and has far greater reach. So unfortunately, it's tapping into every single keystroke that everyone's doing at the moment. And, there's all kinds of arguments about if that's a good idea or not. But for now, it is massive, massive research tool for me because this is my thing. This is my thing that I want to help people with my knowledge in physics, medicine, and the spiritual world to kind of tie them together. But I think I have a knack for having the ability to explain these kind of really far out concepts in a very, very succinct way to lay people. But one thing that Aries Tech does is it says the effective coverage diameter is 139 feet. Now, my question is, what happens at 140 feet? Does it stop? What meter did they use to walk back and forth? Because I sure as hell know that it wasn't a multimeter that checked flux because of the inverse square law. And at the inverse square law, you saw me move backwards from the microwave, right? Move just a couple feet and went back to healthy category. Again, that doesn't mean that you are free from the damaging effects of all of the radiation around you. So doesn't it make sense that you would want to wear something that actually grounds that energy, that synthetic energy that's coming in, that's wreaking havoc on your nervous system, causing a thing called neurasthenia? If you want to see a really good book, pick this book up. It's called The Invisible Rainbow, and it is a history of electric disease from the onset of the discovery of static electricity at the Paris World's Fair. Quite an interesting book, how it ties through to the Morse code operators who, when they touched down on the thing, nobody knew what the effects were of 200,000 watts traveling out to the front of the battlefield, touching this guy's finger, going through his feet and grounding and using and frying his nervous system. And they were going, what's going on to our soldiers who are the Morse code operators are committing suicide? They're having heart attacks at 20 years old, and that's when they started to come up with a definition for the disease called neurasthenia. Unfortunately, neurasthenia is not a disease that's found in the American Medical Association. It is found in other sources. So, but this thing here about the 139 feet, I thought it was really interesting because at 139 feet away from a radiation source, you will not feel a thing. And so, but again, what happens at 140? What happens at 132 feet? Like, how do they have such 139? Sounds like marketing to me, right? Because these things, these life-tuned devices, I tested and they did absolutely nothing. As you'll see right here, it's signaling high when I bring it in. It's high, 174, 143. No, I'm not blocking it. I'm trying to block it, but nothing happens. And this thing absolutely did nothing. And I would know, I would feel it if it had any type of efficacy whatsoever, and it did not. So, and so I went on to ChatGPT and I said, what is the amount of radiation when you're standing at 139 feet from a source?